You all know our in-resident Imam, Imam Hassan Sultan. He comes to us from the Muslim Connection right here in Tampa Bay area, here in metropolitan area. And without further ado, Imam Hassan, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. And I'd just like to start off by saying I appreciate what Reverend Judith had just said. So even if I speak for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or a lot of things, she probably would have said it better than I said it. So I appreciate what the statements she made, especially in these times, and especially what's happening, like at USF, had some of the students get arrested, and we had to bail them out a couple of days ago. And one of them got trespassed for a whole year. He only has a semester left to graduate, and all he did was tell the officers, like, that person is not resisting arrest. So they gave him a misdemeanor, saying that non-verbal, uh, like verbal stopping, verbal resisting arrest. Um, and they want to suspend. So the thing is,
Are you
uh,
kidding me? Verbally resisting arrest. This
on
kid
somebody else's behalf.
and now he has a record. He has to do probation. A college student. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So, and there's many, I guess, around the country. I mean, they threw tear gas at the students, rubber bullets, on campus, the other day. So, so the idea is we live in a time where probably around my generation, I guess in the early 2000s, a lot of people had, came after the era of 9/11, where a lot of people had fear. The new generation grows, they really want to see change and primarily, I guess, peace on earth. And we realize that campus is where people thrive, they develop their own personalities, they grow up out of the shell of where they were taught in school or in their homes, and now they see the world for themselves and on all different levels, right? Somebody may have been, going to a church or mosque or synagogue. Now they go to USF, where they're taught you can do whatever you want to do, choose whatever path you want to choose. And along the choosing the path, you see a lot of them come together and realize that when they see innocent people getting killed on a daily basis and the world is completely silent, and now we're put in a position where if you say anything, even now we're told, even if you make certain prayers in your mosque or certain places, because the whole because a lot of the people are standing are actually Jews themselves, different faith. Most people that are leading it are not even Muslims. It's SDS, Students for Democracy. They're different organizations that are doing these things. So now I believe there's a question that arises, is that people say, what is the root cause of this? Some people say this is because of religion, or I tend to disagree. I believe when we understand who God is and why God created us and what our purpose on earth is. And, one of the six pillars of our belief in our faith is that we believe in the concept of destiny, that God is aware of the past, the present, the future, and all alternate realities. And that God has us on this earth after 120 days of being in the womb of our mother. The angel comes and blows in the soul, giving life to the body. And in there is already determined how long we're going to live on this earth. Everyone has a beginning and has an end, but we believe there is an afterlife and there is a day of judgment, and that everyone will be given their due justice, even the animals that were mistreated on that day, right, will be given their justice. And then it is a day where everyone will be gathered. So we believe that that concept of understanding that there is a higher power, right? That is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as God, and He put us on this earth to worship Him, to be grateful to Him, to recognize Him. And when we stick to that, we see what happened with the Pharaoh and Moses, right? When Pharaoh was oppressing, Moses and his followers, and Moses, as we know, the story in the Quran says that his mom, he had a law that every boy that was born every other year, they would kill them during the time of the Pharaoh. So Moses' mom, she put him in the river, right? And he ended up in the house of the Pharaoh. And the wife of the Pharaoh, she helped raise him, and then they needed somebody to hire to breastfeed him. And they ended up hiring the mother of Moses. So she was in the house of the Pharaoh, breastfeeding Moses. And Moses grew up, and eventually became a prophet. So when he approached the Pharaoh, and the first thing the Pharaoh said, am I not the one who let you live in my house, right, and do all this? So then Moses responded by saying, I recognize the good you have done. So even in Islam, we have two types of gratitude. Uh, the gratitude where we recognize, hey, we live in this country, we recognize the freedoms and the things we have. But then Moses also said, but that does not justify the killing of innocent people. Because Moses really wasn't he wasn't threatened himself. So he said, so yes, I recognize that you let me grow in your house and you raised me, but this by no means justifies what you're doing to the Israel, the people of Israel, or the people that follow Moses at that time. And we believe the people of Israel, the sons of Jacob, prophet Jacob. So, anyways, he stood up for him, and before he spoke to him, he made a prayer that I say every time before I give a sermon. He said, "Oh God, purify my heart, make my affairs easy, untie the knot on my tongue, and not let me say something that may anger you or lose my anger in the moment," like basically having emotional intelligence when he speaks to the Pharaoh, and give him wisdom in his speech. And this is something we always ask God, that before I speak, that I have wisdom in what I say. You know, that I do not get caught up or overwhelmed with anger, and also approach even the oppressor with wisdom, right? Because at the end of the day, even he can be saved. Moses had an idea that even the Pharaoh can be saved and follow the path of following
Good.
one God. So that being said, right, they were exiled and he was eventually kicked out, and then he moved on and came back later. And now Moses has to address his people, right? They've been, a lot of them been killed, a lot of them been approached. So the first thing he said, in the verse in the Quran, in the chapter of Abraham, it says, وَلَئِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. He says that if you're thankful, God will increase you. He could have told them that if you're patient, right, God will increase. No, if you're patient, if you're grateful, God will increase you in different ways. It could be your sustenance, your wealth, your health, whatever it may be. And someone asks, why would he tell them to be grateful in a moment where they're being oppressed? He says, once you remember God and that what he's given us, our breath, our heartbeats, and everything that we do, then, or that we have, it becomes easy to become grateful. And once you're grateful, that leads to patience. But you can't become patient if you don't understand why is it that you have to be grateful for. And that's the three-step process: is remembering God, being grateful to God, and then now this helps you be patient with the world, that realizing this life in itself is a test. All right, this whole world, our life is a test. We're challenged every day in different ways. So, anyways, and sometimes comfort is a test in itself. Is that God has given you so much? Are you going to sit back and say, I don't want to be uncomfortable and let others suffer, right? That we see, even some people see their own people suffering, but like, look, life is good. I don't want to make any sacrifices. And that's a different discussion, because in our time, where education system is supposed to empower people, not suppress their ideas and thoughts, where even education, we're told how to think, right? Where people are becoming robotic, they have to comply with what's happening and not even be able to give a different opinion or perspective on different things. So, and people are doing peacefully for the most part. So, anyways, Moses later on, as the story goes on, was surrounded by one point, they say, I mean, at that time, 1.8 million people from the army of the Pharaoh, and their whole population was 600,000. So as they're approaching the ocean, there's no way out, right? They don't know what to do. So the followers of Moses say, "What do we do?" And he said, "Kalla inna ma'i rabbi." He said, "God is with me; He will guide me." Right? And
Rod, who's speaking? Can we mute them?
I don't have the ability to unmute to mute anyone. You didn't give me calls.
Here, let me get it.
anyways, so then he's surrounded by that, and they're all nervous what's going to happen. And so anyways, he says that God is with me and He will guide me. So then God commanded him. He had the staff in his hand, and he threw the staff.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Hold on.
Can everyone put yourself on mute, please?
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, he threw the staff, and then after that the sea split in half, and they were able to be saved. But the point here was that he hid one of the conditions we have in our religion about prayer, or when you supplicate to God, is that you have full faith that God will answer you. That is a condition of prayer. And how God answers, we said it's in three different ways, of course. Number one, he grants what you ask for. Number two is that God protects you from something that may have happened to you, or answers your prayer in a way not what you want, but what you need, that you may not know at that time. So, for example, somebody really loves a girl and really wants to be with her, but it's not working out. He's praying, oh God, this works out, or vice versa. But later he find out there was wisdom in it, right? That, this didn't work out probably for the better. So then you realize that God directs us in ways we don't know, but we have to trust the Creator that He knows what's best for us. And sometimes the hardship in life can make you better long term, right? So then sometimes you look at everything look at back at life. What made people look at NBA players? Some of them that say, I grew up in a very tough, and I had a very tough. I couldn't even take a clean shower, like Shannon Sharp would say, right, in the NFL. So you look back at those moments, it is what made them appreciative of today of what they have, right? And help them agree. So then you look at that, it's all life is all lessons that we learn, and God puts us through it to realize He'll put us through it also. So one of the conditions of prayer is that we have full certainty that God is answering us. He's closer to us than our own jugular veins. And the prophet said that if the whole of all of humanity was to gather together to harm you in any way, they wouldn't be able to do so except by the permission of God. And if all of humanity was to gather together to benefit you in any way possible, they wouldn't be able to do so except by the permission of God. So we understand the power that God has. We surrender our will and authority to Him, realizing that some things logically in our mind will never make sense. But what makes sense that God is the most merciful, the most compassionate, the extremely merciful, that He created us with mercy to all humanity and even the animals and even the raindrops. They're specifically, God knows where every rain drops, where every leaf falls, and every pain that every individual goes through. So, and everyone has an open door, right, regardless of their faith, to always ask God for anything at any given time. And we believe the third way the prayer is answered, of course, is on the day of judgment, in the afterlife. So here we see is that these are moments where we see around the world where we are supposed to actually turn to God, because we get so caught up in our own lives, individualistic, and people are so caught up. So these are moments to say, let's come together as humanity. Let's sit and have at least a conversation. That's what Lifeline does that's unique. They're able not necessarily to agree about everything, but we do agree upon we want a better community. We want a better society. We want to be able to do that, but that only can happen through one way, and is that the truth, and the truth will set you free. And I'll end with this. There's a verse in the Quran that says, "O believers, be with the truthful." He didn't say be amongst the truthful. He said be with them. So if you look at history, the two most famous Muslims, I believe, to ever live in America, or two of the most famous Muslims to ever live in America, are Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X. And it wasn't because they were like known to be religious or give sermons, or it wasn't because of that. It's because Muhammad Ali sacrificed his career for Vietnam. He refused to be in something where he thought it was unjust. Not because he was a boxer that he's known today. He's not known because he was a boxer. He's known because he stood with what you. So to this day, I watch his videos and inspired by his videos every single time I watched him. You look at Malcolm X. He stood with the truthful, right? And for that, he was assassinated. And if you read his biography, right, and after especially went to the Mecca and came back, so the thing is, they're remembered, and many of the people in history are remembered because they were truthful and they stood with the truthful, even if it wasn't popular at that time. Now everyone quotes them today. Everyone quotes Malcolm X, but if Malcolm X was here today, he would be banned for most worship places because people don't want to hear the truth because it makes them uncomfortable, and there can only be one truth. You can't have different opinions about truth. There can only be one truth, right? So the idea is that, and a part of being with the truthful is being with the oppressed, standing with those who are the homeless, those who are less fortunate, those who are going through tough times, those who are going through illnesses in hospice centers and other places that people ignore and reject in society. Those are the people that Moses stood with and the prophets stood with, Jesus stood with, right? And Prophet Muhammad stood with. They honored them, and they were the ones that changed the world, the ones that were overlooked. It never came from the power out top. I'm a firm believer that change comes from the bottom, right? And I promise it's the last story I'll say. We believe Prophet Muhammad, during his time in Mecca, in the first stage, they were being boycotted, they were being tortured. So he had an opportunity to speak with like the president of the society at that time. And right before he can do so, a blind man approached him. And the prophet slightly just turned his face away to speak to like the president. Imagine you have like an official meeting with like higher people in government, and somebody off the street, right? A homeless person wants to talk to you. You're probably like, man, I don't have time for this. So the prophet didn't ignore, but he just turned away. So God revealed a verse in the Quran that says that this person that's blind is deserving more of your attention than the president. A lot of times in life, we're seeking the attention of the people that don't care for us, but then there's people like at the Lifeline and others that are willing to listen to you, and people in your house within your own circle that are there that want to hear what you say. And we're thinking the change is coming from the other, is greener on the other side, not knowing what you have is already great. So let's fill and let's use that potential. And God will send people in your life that you never expected will be the ones that make your life better. So we should always have that trust and realize that it is believing in God what makes the world a better place. It's when we go away, all right? And that's what the people try to blame about religion when followed correctly and understood properly in all aspects. It is the solution for humanity. And I'll stop here for now because I went 3 minutes over.
Dr. Ells, you're on mute.
Well. Alhamdulillah.